I got these animals some dinner. I'm gonna walk over to the pond real fast. And I'm gonna see what's going on with these animals. I'm gonna get them over here. But yesterday I was taking a look at everything, and so I was talking about this budget, my budget for the month. And so yesterday I sat down and I made an itemized list, because yesterday I was talking about I spent $4,500 on hay, and I have about $2,500 worth of corn, and then I bought $2,000 worth of dried distiller grains, and I added all that up. But I was like, technically that's incorrect. I did spend $9,000 just about, plus or minus 3% or so. I spent about $9,000 on the feed. But, realistically, it's like I still have $2,450 worth of corn. And I've only used 3 bales of hay. And I'm gonna see if something's going on with these animals. I'm gonna see, maybe they're just hanging out here because it's a bit hot. But yesterday I was talking about my budget, and I was saying that I spent $9,000. And I mean, technically I did spend $9,000, but it's like I spent $9,000. But realistically, it's like, what did I buy with that $9,000? I bought well, and here's the thing, it's like the corn that I bought that a long time ago, right? I didn't buy that with any sort of recent money. I bought that with money that I made last year. And so technically I did not spend $2,500 on corn, right? And so yesterday I was sitting there at a table and I was writing my numbers down, and I've always said that money's objective, right? Money is not subjective. Yeah, these animals are doing okay. They're just hanging out by the water. If you actually stand out here by the water, you can actually feel the cool air coming off the top of the water. It's probably 10 degrees cooler. If you've ever felt a swamp cooler, you know that if you just put some moisture in the air and just push wind across it, it's cooler. And so these animals are not sick. I'm gonna leave them alone. They're not sick. Yeah, they're just hanging out by the water because it's cooler by the water. And so yesterday I was making a budget. And y'all know that I'm not good at math, so I can't make this stuff up. I don't have the capacity to do that. And so, I'll just give you the numbers. I don't know where I put this list. I had the list in my pocket, and then I was giving my new animals that just got here, I was giving them their metaphylaxis dose of macrocin. I was giving them their macrocin, and when I was giving them their macrocin, I lost the list. I don't know where I put the thing. And so y'all are going to know that I can't do this off the top of my head. And so here are the numbers. I feed roughly, okay, so right now I'm feeding actually starting today, because I've taken my big animals to the market, and so I've reduced the amount of feed that the animals are getting. I was feeding 6 buckets, but I'm just gonna tell you what was on the list, because the list was all of the money that I had spending for the month. I had been spending for the month up until yesterday, up until July 14th. Or what is it? Is it June or is it July? I don't even know. Oh yeah, July 14th. I don't even know. But so the list was up until yesterday, and starting today I have reduced the amount of feed that my animals are getting. And so up until yesterday I was feeding my animals 6 buckets of corn a day, and each bucket is each bucket's 30 pounds. And I pay about $200, just about $200 for a tonnage of corn delivered. And so 180 pounds a day is $18 a day. And then I'm feeding them dried distiller grains, and the dried distiller grains, I got it for $2,000 for 6 tons delivered. And so I pay about $340. And I feed these animals, right now I'm feeding them, well, up until this morning, I was feeding them 4 buckets. I was feeding them 80 pounds a day. And so, and when I added everything up, the itemized list, because yesterday I was talking about, I bought $4,500 worth of hay, and it's like I did buy $4,500 worth of hay, but 4,150 of it is still sitting on my front yard. Right? I mean, it's not like it's not like I used all $4,500 worth of hay. I bought $4,500 worth of hay, but $4,250 of it is still sitting in my front yard. You know, I used 3 bales, and that was one of the things that I had messed up on the list, was that I had calculated that I had used 2 bales, but I did not use 2 bales. I used 3 bales. And then also I forgot to add the preconditioning feed onto the list. And so the list, at the end of the day, it's like the vet expenses. When I add the vet expenses and the medication and the gas and everything, so far this month I've spent about $1,700. I've spent about $1,700 and I've made $39.20, just about. And so far this month, you know, we're halfway through the month. We're halfway through the month, and I've made about $2,400. I've made about $2,500. You know, I was going through my idea yesterday, and I was like, you know, this is technically correct, but it's also technically incorrect, because I did buy $4,500 worth of hay, but I still have $4,250 of it sitting in my front yard. You know, yes, I do have $2,500 worth of corn, but I still have $2,475 of it sitting in my bin. And it's like, yes, I did buy $2,000 worth of distiller grains, but $1,940 of it is still sitting on my front yard. And so it's like, you know, and so I was thinking about that, and I was like, the more realistic way for me to describe a budget, for me to actually, it's like the whole big idea is to make people aware, you know, of numbers. Like, you know, because here's the thing, right? It's like, when I take a look at the world, like, you know, almost everybody's screwed. Like, I don't know what happened. You know, I don't know what happened. But everybody, like almost everybody is just screwed financially. I don't know what happened. I don't want to know what happened. You know, but almost everybody's just screwed financially. And I'm like, you know, at the end of the day, I'm not saying I'm a saint, right? I'm not saying I'm a saint. I'm not saying I'm a good person. I'm not saying anything like that. But at the end of the day, I make a boatload of money. And so I figured, you know, the thing is I might as well just talk about what I do, you know, because it's like, at the end of the day, it's like who really knows, you know, what's a good person and what's a bad person? Who really knows, right? But at the end of the day, I make a boatload of money. And so I figured, you know, that's the big thing. I might as well just talk about, you know, because here's the thing. It's like, you know, it's like, well, I mean, okay, but, you know, it's like, this is what I've been talking about, right? You know, on this, you know, I got an estimate made for the fence, and I got a well driller. I contacted a well driller. And they're going to be out there on the field, working on the field here at ASAP. As soon as they get you know, they went and they took a look at the field, and they got an estimate done. I got the survey done. You know, I'm under an option contract. And, you know, here within, you know, probably about 3 weeks, you know, my new field will be ready to go. And so, you know, when I take a look at everything, it's like, you know, I haven't even started to cash flow my new field yet. I haven't even started to put cattle on my new field yet, and I'm already sitting on like $1.25 million, $1.5 million, right? I mean, you know, I haven't even started to put cattle on my new field yet, right? And it's like, you know, like, you know, I understand, you know, and it's like, you know, at the end of the day, you know, $1 million a year, $1.25 million a year is not a tremendous amount of money, right? It's not like a tremendous amount of money, but at the end of the day, I'm just going to be honest. Like, if I'm just going to talk about, like, you know, the reality of my situation, is that granted, like I don't go and do something, you know, horribly, you know, just dumb, right? I mean, granted that I don't just go and do something horribly dumb, I essentially have more money than I could ever use. You know, granted that it's like when I wake up tomorrow, I continue to run my cattle. You know, granted that I don't like abandon my business. Granted that I don't go and do a bunch of drugs, right? Granted that I don't go and do, you know, I don't develop some major problems. It's like, if I wake up tomorrow and I just run more cattle, you know, if I just run more cattle and I just run my business, I essentially make more money than I could ever use. I mean, you know, even right now, you know, this cattle business, and here's a realistic way to look at it, right? I mean, because yesterday I was talking about this, and I went inside and I made an itemized list, and it's like, you know, it's been 14 days, 15 days. I've taken more cattle to the market today, and I got another cattle day on the 29th, and I'll be taking more animals to the market on the 29th. And it's like, you know, so far this month, you know, this business, and here's the thing, it's like, you know, I've put $1,700 into this business, right? I put $1,700 into this business, and this is the part that maybe you don't see. But the $1,700 is also tax deductible. You know, I made a positive $2,200. I netted a positive of $2,200 cash, but the $1,700 that went into my business is also tax deductible. And so essentially I get about a third of that back, essentially. You know, everything that I buy, because it's like, you know, I've already talked about this, but the more money you make, the more taxes you pay. And last year, you know, even last year, I've talked about this, but last year my income was about 93 grand. You know, I had ran a cattle business, and my final income for the year, when I put it all together, like my cattle business made like a $60,000 last year. Made about $60,000 last year. And when I put it all together with my W-2, my income came in at about 93 grand, and I owed $27,000 in income tax, and I was able to reduce that to $4,700. So I saved myself $20,000 in income tax. You know, that's the part. You know, it's like and I'm not saying that you should go and buy a bunch of cattle to reduce, you know, to lower. I've already talked about this. You know, I'm not suggesting anybody do anything. Like, you know, could you start an LLC tomorrow and go and buy cattle and reduce your income tax burdens? Sure, you could, right? But now you're actually going to have to run cattle. That's the part that you have to understand, right? I mean, you're going to have to run a business. And it's like, are you sure you can actually run a business? Are you sure that you actually even want to run a business? You know, it's like a lot of people, it's like when you talk to people, it's like, you know, when they say they want to, I've already talked about this, but when they say they want to start a business, most of these people don't want to start a business at all. They just want to make some extra money, right? And a lot of people, if you offered them $1,000 a day, they would walk away from their business dream forever. They would never talk about starting a business again. I don't know what gets into people, you know, it's like, and it's like, are you sure you actually want to run a business? Is that what you actually want to do, right? Like, are you going to work on this thing for 15 hours a day for 15 years straight? Are you sure that that is what you're going to do, right? Like, are you sure? You know, because at the end of the day, most people, even if they can make $1,000 a day, not even $1,000 an hour, $1,000 a day, even most people, it's even $500 a day. If they figured out that they could make $500 a day, they would never talk about a business again, ever. You know, and it's like, are you sure that what you're actually saying is you want to start a business? Are you sure that that is what you're actually meaning? Or are you meaning that you just want to go and make some extra money? Because if you want to go and make some extra money, you don't need to start a business. You should not start a business. If you have 12 grand in your bank account and you invest your 12 grand and you turn it into 90 grand, and then you go, oh man, I can actually do this, then go for it. Then start your business, right? But don't go, you know, and I've already talked about the whole thing about business. It's like, if your big plan is to go, oh my God, I'm just going to throw money at this thing until it works, it's never going to work. I mean, you know, and it's like, if you're running, it's never going to work. I'm telling you, it's not going to work at all, forever. Forever, it's not going to work. Right? I mean, just right off the bat, it's not going to work. If that's your big idea, I'm just going to throw money at this thing until it works. It will never work. I will bet you 50-1. It will never work. The money is negligible. You know, if you have 12 grand and you're like, you know, if I leverage this 12 grand for 30 grand, you know, if I go and I take a loan for 18 grand on top of my 12 grand, you know, I leverage my money and I invest the 30 grand, and then you turn the 30 grand into 90 grand, then sure, have at it. Right? And it's like, yeah, then it's like you made a 300% return on your money. You know, you made you turned 18 grand into 60 grand, right? You made like a 350% return on your money. You know, it's like, if you find an opportunity, that was how I started my business, right? I found, you know, I was running cattle, you know, I was running all sorts of cattle. I had some plainer animals. At one point, I was even considering running Dexter animals. I had a mama cow, and I was doing all these different things, and I was just tracking the money. I was just seeing where, you know, what does the money look like? And when I got into the stocker calf business and I started raising stocker calves and I started selling stocker calves, I realized that at least I was making all of my money back. Right, all of the money that I was putting into my animals, at least I was making it back. And then I did that a few times, and then at one point, you know, I was buying animals, and when I bought the animals, you know, I invested my 12 grand. I was taking a look at, you know, I had figured a little bit of the cattle business out. You know, I had ran a 3 or 4 lot of animals, and I had figured the cattle business out a bit, and I was taking a look at things, and I was like, you know what, right now my money is invested, and at this point in time I actually know enough to understand that at least I'm making my money back. That, you know, and then I leveraged my money. And then I took a loan for 18 grand. I went 30 grand into it, all in 30 grand, and I tripled my money. I tripled my money in about 6 months, about 9 months. And so I went from 18 grand to about, I leveraged it for 30. So I had 30,000 total. I invested the 30 grand. And when I invested the 30 grand, the feeder cattle market went up by like 90%. The grass that I was growing in came in real good. And I essentially managed to turn that 30 grand into about 90 grand. And then I had to pay the bank back. 18 grand. And so, I walked away from the thing with about 72 grand. And it's like, that was how I actually started my business. Like, if you want the fine details, I'm going to give you the fine details. I'm not going to ask if you want them. Those were the fine details of how I started my business. If your big idea is, oh my God, I'm going to start a business, you should really sit there and think about it. Are you sure you actually want to start a business, or are you talking about you want to make a little bit extra money? And if you want to make extra money, then then you should just go and make some extra money. No, you don't need to start a business. You should probably not start a business. And here's the thing. It's like, the thing about me, it's like, I've always said that if you're poor, the worst thing that you can possibly do as a poor person is encourage other people to be poor and, misinform people. That's the worst thing. The worst thing is not you being poor. You being poor yourself is perfectly fine. But the moment you start encouraging other people to be poor, and the moment you start misinforming people, that is the worst thing you can do. You should be kicked into a moat. You should be kicked into a hole tomorrow. If that is what you're doing, and it's like, you need to become aware of that. You should not be doing that to people. It's not good. Well, I mean, I'm not going to say it's not, but it's just, I would see it as just, you should see that as a moral wrong. It's not a good idea. It's morally wrong to be a poor person and encourage other people to be poor. That is morally wrong. It's not good. Right? I mean, it's like, if you're poor, keep it to yourself. Don't start turning other people poor. Don't start encouraging other people to be poor. And here's the thing. It's like, when you take a look at my numbers, I took cattle to market today, so I'm not exactly sure how much money I made on them. But I would say, the animals that I took to market today, I'm probably going to get about two and a quarter. I would say I'm going to get about 2 1/4, and the average weight's going to come in at 75 for the 4 of them. That's what I think. I think that the average weight is going to come in at about 650, 675, and I'm going to make about 2 1/4 after commissions and everything. I don't know what that is. So I don't know what that is, but type it in the calculator. 650 times 2 1/4, 675 times 2 1/4 times 4. I took 4 animals to market this morning. And so type it into a calculator, and I'll do that when I get inside too. And it's like, so far for the month, I've made $2,300. And today I only brought home 2 animals. I paid $600 an animal. I paid $635 an animal. And I only brought home 2 animals because I have a sick animal in the preconditioning. But he's not sick. But, he's just kind of slowly getting it back together. I mean, and I don't want to freak him out. I don't want him to, that's my main priority right now, is I don't want to put him under a whole bunch of stress. And so I brought home a 500-pound animal, and the 500-pound animal has kind of a swollen leg. But, the thing is, okay, I'm not saying that you should go and buy animals that have problems. But, this 500-pound steer, I got him for $600. And from my understanding, if they have a swollen leg, but they're not hobbling on it, they're not crippled, he's not hobbling on it, and he's not showing any respiratory problems. I mean, he's running around just fine, and he doesn't look sick. He's got his head up and he's looking around, and he doesn't look sick or anything. From my understanding, that that happens when an animal damages a ligament in their leg, and the ligament will fill up with fluid. And so at the end of the day, I got him for $600. He's 500 pounds, and when I raise him to 700 pounds and sell him, I'll probably still get about 1,100 bucks for him. I'll still probably make money on him. And so I'm not too worried about it. You know, I'm not too worried about it. You know, I spent 600 on him. He doesn't have any major problems. He just has a swollen joint in the leg. And so I got him for 600 bucks. Chances are when he's about 750 pounds and I take him to market, I'll get about $1,000 for him. And so it's like I got him for 650. You know, I put 200 bucks into him and then I sold him for 1,100 bucks. And so I'm not too worried about it. I'm still going to make money on him. And so, but here's the thing. It's like, you know, I've said this repeatedly like 1,000 times, right? And I've said this too, but it's like, if you're having such difficulty remembering simple information and you actually want to do this, then you should start taking things more seriously. Maybe you should start consider writing things down. Like, I don't understand why people have such a massive amount of difficulty with such simplistic things. I don't get it. It's like you're having a life and death battle over nothing. Right? It's like I've legitimately shown you exactly what I do to a fine detail. How are you having so many problems? I don't get it. You know, and it's like I've been averaging like $7,000-8,000 a month. And it's like, you know, and it's like if you want to make $1,000 a month extra, if you want to make $1,500 a month extra, you only have to do like a quarter of what I'm doing. I may be raising 50 animals. You only have to raise 15. You know, I don't want to get it. I'm not asking for you to tell me. Like, I don't understand why people have such a massive amount of problem with such like minimal. I don't get it. And I don't want to get it. Like, I don't understand. I don't want to understand. It's like, you know, when you take a look at what I'm doing and I legitimately tell you everything that I'm doing to a fine detail and exactly how I do everything, why is there such a massive amount of like, such, you know, why are people, you know, why do you have such a massive amount of problems, right? I don't get it. You know, it's like, you know, I raise 1 to 1.5 time medium large frame animals. What is that? Well, in my Central Texas area, the 4 major breeds for these are Hereford, Angus, Brahma, and Charolais. Those are the 4 major beef breeds. When you're looking for grain, you've got to find a broker. How do you find a broker? You just call your local grain elevator and ask for their broker. Right? I mean, I don't understand. You know, and it's like, you know, and I don't get it. I don't want to get it. You know, keep it to yourself. You know, I'm not asking for you to tell me. Right? It is such simplistic, you know, and I've said that even right now, it's like, it's the easiest cattle market known to man. You know, and it's like, I can almost guarantee, like, when I drive around, it's like, why is everybody failing? I don't understand. You know, everybody is failing. I don't get it. I don't want to get it. I'm not asking for you to tell me, right? Like, you know, like, what is good? Like, when I drive around, it's like, why is everybody failing? This is legitimately the easiest cattle market that I've ever seen in my entire life. All you have to do is call a broker, right? I mean, and it's like, you know, and I legitimately tell everything that I'm doing to a fine detail. I don't understand. You know, it's like, what is going on? It's like, if you want to make $1,500 a month, here's a way to look at it. If you want to make $1,500 a month, if you want to make $20,000 a year, you only have to do 1/4 of what I'm doing exactly proportionally. When I order $25,000 worth of corn, you order 5,000, you order 6,000. Right? When I order 1,000, you know, when I order 6,000 pounds of distiller, or when I order 12,000 pounds of distiller grains, you just order 3,000. Right? And it's like, if you call your broker and you ask them, hey, can I get a truck that has 9 tons of corn in it and 3 tons of distiller grains in it, and can you bring it to me? How much will that cost me? Then they will legitimately tell you the cost of the corn and the cost of the distiller grains. And I've told you exactly how much I pay, right? I've told you exactly how much I pay. And I've told you how to find the price of corn. You go on the stock market and look up the price of corn on the commodity market. Right? I mean, that is legitimately to a fine detail exactly what you do. And it's like, you know, I don't understand. It's like, why is everybody failing to such a massive degree? I don't get it. You know, like, when I drive to these sale barns, and it's like, I drive to these sale barns, I drive all over the place. I go to the east, I go to the north, I go to the south, I go to the northwest, I go all over the place, and everybody is failing. I don't understand. You know, it's like, I don't understand, and I don't want to understand. I'm not asking for you to tell me. And it's like, it's like, it's like these people have like 50-acre fields, 100-acre fields, and they're legitimately going negative cash flow. I don't understand. Why? What are you doing? Like, what are you possibly doing? Like, I don't get it. If you had a 50-acre field and you did 1/5 of what I was doing on that 50-acre field, you could be making an extra $70,000-$80,000 a year. Like, I don't get it. It's like, why is everybody failing? I don't understand. And it's like, and it's like when I make these videos, I legitimately describe everything that I do to a fine detail. How could you possibly mess it up? Right? Like, I don't get it. All you do is if you want to buy grain at a commodity price, you call a local elevator and you ask for their broker. That's all you do. And it's like, when you want to figure out the price of corn, you go on the stock market and look up the price of corn. I don't understand. What is there that you cannot understand? If you want to know the price of cattle, you go on the stock market and look up the feeder cattle price. I don't get, why is that so difficult? I don't understand. Why is everybody failing to such a massive degree? I'm not asking for you to tell me. Right? I don't want to get it, but when I drive around, it's like, oh my God, like 99.999% of people are just flat out failing. And it's like, what is going on? What are you possibly doing? It's like, if you did 1/4 of what I'm doing, you would be making like $25,000 a year. You would be making like $20,000 a year, and you would only have to run like 10, 15 cattle at a time. I don't understand. Like, I don't get it. Like, how do you end up like that? I don't know. I don't want to know. Don't drag me into your jar. I don't want to know. How do you end up like that? Ask yourself, ask God. I don't know what you're doing, but you're failing on an incredible level. I don't get it. It's like, in everything that I say, it's like, I legitimately describe everything to a fine detail. What do you do when you want to find grain? You call your local grain elevator and ask for their broker. Just go on Google and type in grain elevator. How much do you pay for corn? Go on the stock market and look it up. Just type in corn price commodity on Google and it will pull up the stock market for corn. How do you figure out what cattle are worth? Go on the stock market and just look it up. Feeder cattle price. I've even told you my formula to a fine detail on how do I price my cattle. I've even told you that. Like, how are you failing on such a how is everybody failing on such a massive level? I do not understand. It's like, if you did 1/4 of what I did, you would make an extra $20,000 a year. What are you doing? Like, I don't get it, and this is what I mean by, $20,000 a year is about all it takes to legitimately change your financial life. If you find a way to make $20,000 a year extra, for most people, 99% of the entire U.S. population, if you find a way to make an extra $20,000 a year, it will legitimately change your financials in such a way that you will have so much money that you cannot use it, granted that you don't have problems. And it's like, $20,000 a year, when I see that, it's like, you just have to do 1/4 of what I'm doing and you would make an extra $20,000 a year, 25%. Just take everything that I'm doing to a fine detail and cut it into 1/4. If I bring home 60 animals, you bring home 15. If I bring home 24 tons of corn, you bring home 6. Like, I don't get it. It's like, when I drive around, it's like, why are so many people failing on such a massive level? I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't get it. And it's like, but I've always, it's like, like, I don't understand, and it's like, and I've already talked about this, but if you're in the cattle business, and you're running longhorn cattle, if you're running Corriente cattle, if you're running some off-breed, if you're running some Galloways, or you're running some off-breed cattle, chances are you should just change your animals over to some kind of a beef animal. Just that will make you more money. Like, if you're in a situation where you have a 20-acre field and you're running, 10 longhorn cattle on it, you're running 5 longhorn cattle on it, you should just consider changing over to some kind of a beef animal. And if you just did that, it would make you a few $1,000s a year extra. You know, if you're running some off-breed cattle, if you're running dairy animals, you should probably just consider changing yourself over to some kind of a beef animal. Choose any which one that you want, but make sure it's a beef animal, a 1 to 1.5 type medium large frame animal. You know, some kind of a beef animal, like an Angus, a red Angus, a Brangus, a Brayford, you know, something like that. You know, just choose, you know, choose a beef master. It doesn't matter. Just choose some kind of a beef animal. And if you just did that, and I'm not saying that, you know, and, you know, because here's the thing. It's like, you know, I do not understand. I'm not asking for your reasoning why you failed. I'm not asking for that. But it's like, people should not be failing on such a massive level. Like, most people should not be failing like at this level, you know, to such a tremendous degree. People should not be failing like this. Why, you know, why is it when I drive around and I look at 100,000 farms, you know, not like every single one of them are failing at a massive level? What is happening? I don't get it. You know, and it's like, you know, like, well, I mean, I'm going to say maybe about 90% are failing at a massive level. And then about 9.8% are just barely making it. They're just barely scraping it by. You know, they got 100 acres. It's a 100-acre field, and they got 15 mama cows on it. And it's like, why would you do this? This is, you know, this is a, you know, it's a waste of time. You know, if you used $2,000 worth of fertilizer, you could legitimately double the number of mama cows that you have. Like, what are you doing? I don't get it. Like, have you not even looked into it at all? Like, have you not taken even 10 minutes out of your day to just read a simple article, right? Like, I don't understand. You know, and it's like, you know, it's like when I see these fields and it's like a 50-acre field with 15 mama cows on it. It's a 50-acre field. It's like a 100-acre field with 15 mama cows on it. And it's like, you know, if you put like $2,500 worth of fertilizer on your field, you could legitimately double the number of cattle that you have on your field. What are you doing? You know, I don't understand. You could legitimately be making yourself like an extra $40,000 a year. What are you doing? You know, I don't understand. You know, why are so many people failing at such a massive level? I don't get it. You know, and it's like, you know, and it's like, legitimately, if you just took what I was doing to a fine detail and just cut everything into a quarter, into 1/4, that would be your $20,000 a year. Just cut everything into a quarter. When I go and I buy 24,000 pounds of corn, 24 tons of corn, you buy 6. When I go and I buy 6 tons of dried distiller grains, you buy 1.5. You know, when I go and I buy 35 bales of hay, you buy 10. Right, that's all you have to do. I mean, you know, and it's like, I don't get it. Like, for me, nobody even showed me the answer. Nobody even, like, there was not a single person that made a video and was like, here is exactly what you do, and this is exactly how much money I make, with like 98% accuracy. Nobody did that for me, and I still got to this point. Like, how are you not even getting to the 5% mark? How are 90% of people not even getting to the 2% mark? I don't get it. And it's like, you have to understand, it's like, you know, most people, even if you live to be at the rate that you're going, if you live to be 5,000, you're not going to make it to the 10% mark at the rate that you're going. You need to pick up the pace, and you need to start taking things more seriously. There is no benefit to being poor. I don't understand. It's like, what could you possibly be doing that is more valuable than $20,000 a year? That's more valuable than $40,000 a year? What could you possibly be doing when somebody is genuinely just giving you the answer? You know, I don't understand. You know, like, I don't get it. I don't want to get it. You know, I don't want to. I'm not asking for you to tell me. You know, it's been 2 weeks into the month, and I've probably made like $5,000. Now, I haven't gotten my check for the animals today. I haven't gotten my check for the animals for today just quite yet. But, you know, for the first 2 weeks of the month, I made $2,300. You know, and it's like, when the month is over, I'll have made like $8 grand. You know, $7 grand. And it's like, if you want to make $2,000 a month, you only need to be doing like a third to a quarter of what I'm doing, and that is it. That's all you have to do, and that would be your $20,000 a year. And it's like, I don't get it. You know, like, why is it when I drive around, why are 98% of people just flat out failing? What are you possibly doing with your life? You know, what are you doing? I don't get it. You know, what could you possibly be doing that's worth more than $40,000 a year of extra money? What are you doing that is possibly worth more than $20,000 a year of extra money, $80,000 a year of extra money? If you did everything that I was doing to a fine detail and followed it exactly step by step, the whole thing, you would be making an extra $70,000 a year. What are you possibly doing that is worth more than that money? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. And I'm not asking for you to tell me. You know, I don't get it. You know, when I drive around, and then when I go to the sale barn, and it's like, you know, 40% of the animals that go through the ring are some off-breed animal. It's like, what are y'all doing? Like, why do you have longhorns? Why do you have roper calves? Why do you have dairy animals? I mean, you know, it's like, granted that if you're not in the dairy industry, you know, and it's like, why do you have these off-breed, you know, why do you have these Galloways? Why do you have these Dexters? Why do you have these? What are y'all doing? It's like, if you just changed your animals over to some kind of a beef animal, you would have made an extra $1,000 on that animal. You know, you would have made an extra $700 on your one animal. And it's like, what are y'all doing? I don't get it. You know, like, I don't understand. It's like, you know, it's like, you know, and it's like, if you're watching my videos, I would hope that you do better. For, you know, the big goal is for, you know, is essentially, from my perspective, if you make some more money, you're gonna have a better life. You probably are. And you know, realistically, you want to get to a point where you're making about an extra $20,000 a year. Because if you go from right now to making an extra $20,000 a year, your life is drastically gonna improve. You know, at about $60,000 a year, you can buy 98% of anything on the entire planet. Granted that you have a long enough investment time frame. And if you buy cattle and, you know, you tax deduct your cattle, etc., if you do everything to a fine detail and you actually follow the directions and you actually do it, then it's like, you know, you're making an extra $20,000 a year and you're practically paying zero taxes on it. You know, and it's like, when I drive around and when I take a look around, I don't understand. It's like, what are you possibly thinking about that could be worth more than the money? I don't understand. It's like, you know, it's like, if you genuinely realize tomorrow that you can make an extra $40,000 a year, that should be very important to you. It should be. I don't know, you know, if someone told you somewhere along the way that money's not important. Like, if somebody told you that, like, money's not important and you shouldn't worry about money and you shouldn't think, they misinformed you. They misinformed you. You should be thinking about money. And if you make some extra money, your life is probably going to be better. It probably will be. I'm just going to say it. You know, if you make some extra money, your life is probably going to be better. Money will make your life better up to a certain point. Almost everybody. You get to eat better food. You get to, you know, live with less stress. You get to, you know, accomplish something that is difficult. You know, you get to do all of these things when you have some extra money. And it's like, I don't, you know, I'm not asking for you to tell. I'm not asking, you know, if you're failing on a tremendous level, I'm not asking for your reason why you're failing. I'm just, you know, I'm not asking. I don't want your reasoning. You know, and it's like, you know, it's like, if you legitimately just did what I did and did 1/4 of it to a fine detail, you would be making an extra $20,000 a year. You would be making your extra $20,000 a year. And it's like, I don't get it. Why are you failing to such a massive level? What is going on? You know, I don't get it. Now, I've legitimately told you how I do everything to a fine detail. I call an elevator. I ask for their broker. How do I figure out the price of grain? I go on the stock market and look up the commodity grain price. I look up commodity corn stock market price. Google. How do I figure out cattle price? I go on the stock market, the commodity stock market, and then I type in feeder cattle commodity price. And it's right there. It's right there every single minute of every single day. I've even told you how I come up with the number for how do I calculate how much am I going to spend per animal. I've even done that. I take a 10% deduction off the feeder cattle price and I cut the number in half. And that's what I'm looking to pay for an animal that is 1 to 1.5 type medium large frame. What is a 1 to 1.5 type medium large frame animal? An Angus, a Hereford, a Brahma, and a Charolais. Those are the 4 major breeds. It's like, I don't get what is there to possibly mess up. I don't understand. And I've told you, like, if you're having difficulties, just write it down. When it comes to, like, even if you're having difficulties remembering the numbers, like when I post a picture of my check, when I post a picture of a check that says $7,000 on it, then write down $7,000 on a piece of paper. If I go and I tell you how much hay, I bought 35 bales of hay, I bought 36 bales of hay, and I paid $4,500 for those 36 bales. I paid $2.25 a ton. I paid $225 a ton, and it's 1,100 pounds a bale. Then every time I put a bale out, write it down. He used, 1 bale of hay is $110. Write down $110 expense. 220. He put 2 bales of hay out. That's $220 of expenses. He used 180 pounds of corn. He pays $200 a ton for corn. That's $18, right? So it's like, he used $18 worth of corn a day. He used, 80 pounds of dry distiller. He used $17 worth of dry distiller grains a day. That's $35 for the grain portion of the animal's diet. And then on top of that, he fed 3 bales of hay. He fed 4 bales of hay. And it's been 2 weeks. Just write it down. And so far, he's brought home $3,920. Write it down. You need to become aware of money. You need to understand that these things all have a monetary value. And when you're looking at the monetary value, when you're looking at something like an asset that you are appreciating, if you want to take a look at an asset that is appreciating and figure out how much money that asset is worth, you have to understand that you can do that with any asset. It's called an appraisal. Right? I mean, you need to start learning how to do these things. If you don't, then you'll probably be poor forever. I'm being serious. Like, it's like, oh my God, what if I don't learn how to, then you're poor forever. It just is what bet me money. I will bet that you stay poor forever. Every single last one of you. If there's 1,000 of you watching my YouTube video, I would bet 50 to 1 that every single one of you are going to be poor forever. I would bet. It doesn't matter how much money you make. If you make $250,000 a year, you will implode. You will lose all your money. I would bet 50 to 1. When I drive around and I take a look at these farms and I see 10,000 farms, it's like 99.9% of people are failing on a tremendous level. Completely failing. That's how bad it is. And it's like, I don't get it. Like nobody made a video and showed me exactly how to do this. Legitimately, nobody did that for me. And I still got I still got here. I'm still making my $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month of net profit. And it's like, I don't understand. How are you having such a massive amount of difficulty with such simple things? Why are you having a life and death battle over nothing? I don't understand. If you legitimately just did this and did 1/4 of it exactly to a fine detail, you would be making your extra $20,000 a year. Like, what is happening? I don't get it. Why is everybody failing to such a massive level? But I did take my animals to market today. I only came home with 2 animals. So far for the month, I've used about $1,700, and I've made $39.20, just about within a few cents. And today I'll be bringing home another check. And also today I've reduced the amount of feed that I'm giving the animals. And so, I would say that for the month, I'm going to make about $8,000. And on the average month, if I lowball myself, I make $5,000. But that's it for me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.